All right, and we are rolling. Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Napoleon and Gueco podcast. How's it been going in Maine, Gueco?
It's been nice, man. Nice weather, hot chicks. It's been good.
Well, that's the time to be there because I certainly wouldn't want to be there during Christmas time.
Yeah, no, it gets icy. It gets pretty icy.
I can imagine. I had enough trouble being in Colorado over that time of year, so I couldn't imagine how bad it would be in Maine. For me, just -2 was the worst weather I've experienced. I don't know how people survive up there.
You know what? I've been in minus 40 degree weather, Celsius. Is that Celsius, right? Yeah, minus 40 degrees. Yeah. That's in Ottawa, Canada. I spent a winter there. That shit was nuts, man. Talk about you have to gear up to get out of the house. Gear up. No joke.
Man.
Yeah. Hey, it was cool though. It was cool. Like, I mean, I didn't stay there long, just 6 months, and in the winter, really spend the whole winter, like from September till like March and of the next year, and kicked my ass in a lot of good ways. It was a good experience for me, definitely, and it was different, which was cool for me. But people do get a little depressed on during the winter time.
Oh, I do too, and also I'll feel that way if it's just like 40 outside and I have to wear a jacket and I just have wind beating on me, even when there's no snow. I hate the cold. Don't get me wrong, being out in the heat and getting a sunburn's not much fun, but I'll take that over extreme cold. I'd rather have 100-degree weather in Las Vegas than -40 in Ottawa.
Okay, but how does that work? Like, because minus 40, that's Celsius.
Correct.
So that means 0 is the freezing temperature. What's the freezing temperature on Fahrenheit? You know?
The freezing temperature on Fahrenheit is 32.
Okay. That's what I always get like a little bit kind of confused about how it works with the Fahrenheit. Yeah, so 32 is freezing. Of course, 40 is pretty cold. I've been in 40-degree weather Fahrenheit. Of course, in Texas, we get those days, that are pretty freaking cold,
Yeah, -10 Celsius is 14 Fahrenheit, but you said you were in -40 Celsius.
Exactly.
That actually in Fahrenheit is also -40, believe it or not.
Oh, whoa. How does that work? All right, I'm curious now.
So basically, to convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius, you take the temperature in Fahrenheit. So it's like I was saying, the freezing temperature for Fahrenheit is 32. So
Right.
The way the conversion works is, of course, like 32 minus 32, that's 0. Any number multiplied by 0 is 0. That's how you get that Celsius. So the formula is basically the temperature Fahrenheit you want to convert minus 32, and then you multiply that by 5/9. So basically saying, the boiling point in Fahrenheit is 212, but it is 100 in Celsius. So that basically means you subtract 32 from 212, that's 180, multiplied by 5/9. What do you get? 100. So that's basically, that's the, pretty much the checkpoints, or, the milestones with the Fahrenheit and Celsius temperatures. And the whole conversion thing relates to those. So basically saying, just doing a calculator though, you convert, -40 Fahrenheit, that's -40 Celsius. That's kind of weird because it's like -30 Fahrenheit's like -34 Celsius. So I don't know, maybe that's maybe -40 is just like the all-time low, if you want to say
It's like the coldest it gets in the world.
It's kind of like,
Probably is, man. Like, I mean, in the atmosphere that we're at, like, right, like if you go to Siberia, I guess it's probably the
Right.
coldest, or Greenland. They say Greenland, right? Is the one of the coldest as well.
I actually was told, like I've been told for years that Antarctica is the coldest place on
Yeah.
Earth. However, I don't know how true it is, but
Right.
I was watching an episode of Wheel of Fortune, and Pat Sajak, who I'm greatly going to miss seeing on the show, he just retired after being on the show for decades. Definitely was a great host, very entertaining. But it was at the end of the show where him and Vanna White just kind of chat for a little bit, and Pat makes a few cracks, a few jokes, and he actually said that Greenland is colder than Antarctica, and Antarctica is greener than Greenland. So,
Yeah.
and that would make sense because I would think that the North Pole would be colder than the South Pole, because the North Pole, technically, not where Santa Claus works, but the actual North Pole is just all ice. There's no land. Antarctica, yeah, it's a lot of snow and ice, but there is land down there.
I see.
So that's why I have a hard time. I mean, of course, if you're on a game show, they're probably going to want you to say the Antarctic's coldest region on Earth, but
So, I guess,
right
technically
now, I
speaking,
don't believe
it probably gets the coldest in a little bit of area, whereas Greenland is colder all throughout the area. So it's not the coldest place, because even though Antarctica has smaller places that are way colder, probably. See what I'm saying?
I would
Could
imagine.
be a size thing.
But that's probably where the whole temperature scale thing gets based, is that, like, hey, once it hits minus 40, that's it. You can't get any colder.
You don't even have to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit anymore.
That's
You're
right.
cold. You're cold.
It's the same temperature, both scales. Now, what it is on Kelvin, that's a different story.
And you know what really is like the worst when you're in that kind of cold is, like, if you don't have gloves that cover your fingers all the way, or your ears. Oh man, you just like pain. It's pain.
I can
And
imagine.
you gotta get the hell out.
So, in my last job, I was in Indianapolis. It was during the months of like March and April, and it still gets pretty cold up in Indiana over those months, but it was still like 40 degrees, and I was having to work outside, and we were doing work where we were like having to like deal with like small items and stuff like that, like nails and screws and stuff like that. So it was hard for us to kind of wear gloves. So after about 4 hours, I was out there with my hands freezing. Like, I could barely even feel them. Like, they almost felt like they weren't there a couple of times.
And
So,
exactly. It's like
plus
they're
40.
gone. It's like
With how bad it is in plus 40, I could not imagine what it would be like in minus 40 Fahrenheit
Yeah.
or Celsius.
You know what? It gets to the point where when you're in that kind of cold, the days that are like minus 10, you actually like relax. Like you go out and do stuff and like just wear a simple jacket and jeans. So you get so used to that maximum cold that even cold is not that bad anymore. And especially if it's sunny. If it's sunny, maybe minus 2, minus 3, and it's nice. It's like nice. So, but enough about the weather, man. I guess how's the weather? But you had Alcaraz in your mind to win the French Open last time we talked, didn't you?
I believe so. I know the last episode we briefly touched on that, and
Spoiler alert for those people that didn't watch the final.
Right. Well, I mean, after Novak Djokovic had to withdraw due to his injury, I immediately picked Carlos Alcaraz as the one to win.
Smart, yeah.
To be honest, though, it was kind of a tough match between him and the Italian player, Sinner.
Yeah, especially the final. I actually thought Sasha Zverev had a chance, man. Like, I was a little bit rooting for him, to be quite honest.
Yeah, Alexander Zverev, the German player.
Oh yeah, but isn't he Sasha? Like, isn't that his nickname or something? I don't know.
It's possible. Yeah. I don't know him as well as I know some of the other players, but he's definitely an up-and-coming player to watch, just like Carlos Alcaraz, and just like the one who lost to Alcaraz in the semifinals, Jannik Sinner.
Yep.
They're all very good players, and it's kind of reached the point to where Djokovic's getting older, Nadal's getting older. I mean, Federer had to retire. So we're starting to see the next generation of Grand Slam tennis players, and it's really exciting to watch.
Did you watch the Sinner Alcaraz match?
I didn't see all of it, but I did see some highlights, and that was definitely a close one because Sinner was ahead 2-1 on the first 3 sets, but then Alcaraz ended up taking the last 2. But same thing with the final match, because Alcaraz took the first set, Zverev brushed him in the second set, and then broke him in the third set, 7-5. And then the fourth and fifth sets, Alcaraz just
walked through.
dominated. It was
Just
like
walked through,
6-1
yeah.
and 6-2.
You know, I was watching the match. Unfortunately, I was like a little bit far away from the TV, so I couldn't really see it that well. It's like they would hit a shot and you knew who win the point, but you didn't see where the ball went. You're like, okay, I guess that was a winner. But, I was watching when it was like, that third set, and I could clearly see what was going on. Alcaraz was really missing his serve, his first serve especially. He was like using his second serve a lot, and Sasha was just serving and getting through the games. So even when Alcaraz was 5-2 up, I think it was 5-2 or 4-2, either one, but he got to 5, I think, right? It was 7-5 on the third set.
On the third set, Zverev beat him.
Yeah, it was 7-5. And so when he was up 5, it was either 5-2 or 5-3. I was like, Zverev's not done. Like, he's not done. He's gonna serve, he's gonna hold, and Alcaraz is not serving too good. So when he won that serve, I was not surprised at all. But I couldn't really tell what went on the third and fourth. The fourth and fifth set. I couldn't tell whether Alcaraz fixed his serve. Did you notice anything like that in the last sets?
I mean, it's kind of like the thing that surprises me so many times in tennis, and it's something I brought up, I believe, on the last episode when Novak Djokovic was like all ready to go to the gold medal match in the last Summer Olympics, but then ended up getting beat by Zverev, like in the second set, and just like got crushed in the third set by Zverev. Tennis is mostly mental, and once you kind of lose that mental capacity, or you kind of lose that momentum, it's just your serve is just not going to be as well. And that was the thing. Like, if it can happen to Djokovic, it can happen to anybody.
Yep, that's a good point. Yeah, man, good for the kid. I mean, Alcaraz is like what, 20 years old or something?
He is, 21, and he's already won 3 Grand Slam titles.
Amazing.
That's why I'm saying he's the new Rafa Nadal.
He is, yeah.
Not just saying that because he's also from Spain, but he's definitely the player I'm watching the most right now.
And it's like you said, his mental game is above average for his age. Like, you don't see his age playing in the way he does. Even Sinner, I mean, I always consider Sinner to be a very collected person and very strong-minded. But even he's got that little bit of fear or something like Tsitsipas, where they got a little bit of fear, a little bit of hesitation. And Alcaraz does not have that. He just plays the point. If he's going to miss it, he's going to miss it. But he's going to play the point. He's not going to be like, oh, it's 40 love. No, he's just going to play the freaking point. Like nothing. Like, reset. Every point resets. And he wins, and he like pumps himself up, but he doesn't let it get to him. He's just like pumping himself up just to be physically better for the next points. And just a machine. Really good player.
That was the thing, and I could tell he's been learning from Novak Djokovic, because that's happened to Djokovic before. There could be one set where he just kind of is not serving as well, not playing as well, but then he kind of realizes where he went wrong. The next set comes, Djokovic would just, pound the other player. Yeah. And I could tell Alcaraz is trying to pick up on that as well, because it's kind of like what you're saying about, the players in the semifinals. I mean, who's it? Jannik Sinner? Mm-hmm. Obviously he's a good player, because he currently ranks as number 2. I don't know what he'll be going into Wimbledon, and then the other one, Casper Ruud, I believe is from Norway. Yeah, he's also a very good player, obviously, but that's the thing is I've noticed a lot of times they tend to choke.
They choke, exactly. There's a choke. Even Federer choked. Like, I mean, in that final with Djokovic, I think it was a final or semifinal of the Wimbledon, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
but
there's a couple of times they played each other in the finals, but
yeah, exactly. But where like Federer chokes with, and very, very seldom does he do that. Of course, it's like, his game is amazing and everything, but when he does choke, you can see that weakness in him, and then the other player takes advantage, wins the match. Whereas a player like Alcaraz, he's not gonna do that. If you beat him, you're gonna beat him the same way you won the first point. You're gonna win match point. You know what I mean? He's not gonna double fault match point or just like try a drop shot and hit it at the net. No, that match point, he's still gonna drive the ball and move you and all that stuff. So pretty impressive that the mental game is getting stronger with this new generation of players.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. It's going to be very exciting to watch him, like, in the upcoming tournaments. And, I mean, even Novak Djokovic, when he was at the age of Carlos Alcaraz, he was still good, but he wasn't, like, pulling out all the stuff
not like
as
that.
much. So,
and Djokovic had, the three players above him pretty most of his early career. Was, Federer was number 1, Nadal was number 2, Murray was number 3, and then Djokovic was number 4. And that was on for like 5, maybe 6 years or something like that straight, where he couldn't break. He would go to 5 or go to 3 maybe. Murray would go to 4, but he could never break that spot between Federer and Nadal, number 1, number 2. And then Nadal took over as number 1, but Djokovic was not in the picture. He was in the picture and every tournament, but he had that asthma thing. Remember that? He had like breathing problems.
Oh,
then he
yeah.
turned to a celiac. Supposedly he had this celiac thing. He went on a special diet, started like just working out like a beast, and especially stretching and yoga and that kind of thing. Then that's when he became number 1 and just started dominating. And he's been dominating ever since. If you can't still count him out of all the majors.
Of course not.
Yeah, but now
right
it's
now,
like you said, Djokovic and Alcaraz. That's
pretty
it.
much is at this point, because kind of like, it looks like Nadal's about to retire soon, and I think Djokovic's probably not going to stay in it much more, but
they
right
can't.
Now, it is still him and Alcaraz at this point, because the two will play each other, and there's been plenty of matches it gets down to the two of them. And that's like the only time that, of course, I would probably put my money on Djokovic, but you can't really tell. There's really no done deal. You don't really know until the game's over at that point. But just for, a player like just the age difference between the two.
Yeah, exactly. Just the physical stuff. Yeah. Because
too.
The mental is there for both.
Exactly.
It's just it comes down to physical, and Alcaraz has the edge.
You're right. And I think that, I also think it has to do with, the age too. Like Alcaraz is a lot younger. He probably has a little bit more in his system than Djokovic, but Djokovic does have the experience, and, he's been doing this a lot more. But I think, Djokovic's probably going to stay to win at least one more Grand Slam title, because I think I mentioned
more, maybe. A
couple episodes ago that he just has to win one more Grand Slam title to be tied with Margaret Court, because I think she has 24 Grand Slam trophies. He has 24. So he wants to be the greatest of all time.
The number 1. Yeah.
And I can see it happening.
Doesn't Federer have, what does Federer have? He has one that hasn't been broken yet, right? He has the most...
Probably the most prize money won by any athlete.
No, I don't think it's even that. I think it's the most matches played,
that wouldn't surprise me.
Won, something like that. Yeah,
probably. I mean, he kept playing until he was like 38 or 40 or something like that. So he
he's there with some some other players are kind of trailing right next to him on that. But I think he still holds the record for that. There's so many records out there. You could the most second serves, points won, whatever.
I mean, if you can go into bets on, hey, who's going to win this point? Who's going to win this set? Hey,
trading.
Is so-and-so going to double fault here? Man, it gets so crazy. That's why I usually just go money line for when I'm betting on tennis, or I do a future bet. Like for Wimbledon, hey, I'm just going to go bet on Djokovic in advance because the odds are a little bit higher. And that will be interesting, though, because last Wimbledon, it was, guess what? Djokovic and Alcaraz.
Yeah.
I did bet on Djokovic, but I lost money. So that's why I'm saying it is no guarantee. But it can go either way. I mean, Djokovic won the U.S. Open last year, so we'll see.
The Australian. The Australian is always a Djokovic kind of territory, too. He won that a bunch of times, I think.
Right. I don't think he won it this year, though.
No, he didn't win it. But it's definitely one to watch because the surface does. I think even more than the U.S. Open. the surface of. I think the U.S. Open he wins because he just wants to show off to everybody.
Yeah. It was actually Jannik Sinner that won the U.S. Open this year.
Oh yeah, really?
Yes,
he
did.
He didn't have one yet. Oh wow.
Yeah, I didn't think
that.
so either. Yeah, I didn't keep up with it as much, but I know the Australian.
I
Open,
didn't either. Yeah,
that
I usually do.
Djokovic's specialty.
So in the winters, I used to work in Hawaii, and we had the tennis shop, and I would watch all the Australian Open stuff because it was the winter, right? But now I don't really do that anymore for the last year. I mean, last year I didn't do it, so I didn't watch it. I didn't even knew what was going on because I'm not gonna pay for the tennis channel. It's a ripoff. It's a freaking ripoff. You have the tennis channel?
I may or may not, but at the same time, usually if
only rich people have the tennis channel, man.
So it all varies. I mean, usually it's included with one of those sports packages where it's like you gotta pay this much money each month to get that channel. But at the same time, I have a bad habit of watching too much TV as it is with the channels already provided to me. So I don't want encouragement to just watch more TV than I already do. And also, if it gets to be like the real big matches, like once it gets to like the semifinals or the championship, most of those games are either going to be on maybe like CBS or ESPN. And of course, most people will get those channels. So,
yeah, but that's the Grand Slams and stuff. The good thing about the tennis channel is you get to watch the lower tournaments.
Watch those world tours. You get to watch the Barcelona Open, the Dubai Open, so many other.
It used to be much better. It used to be like you could watch different matches. You had all these different setups. Nowadays, it's just downgraded to crap.
Yeah, and plus they'll like show just amateur tennis and stuff like that, which may not be that bad, but at the same time, I don't want to just spend time.
Let's go on YouTube for that, like.
Exactly. I mean, if I watch
tennis,
my
my channel,
it's going to be the Grand Slam tournaments or the Olympics, which are going to be happening this summer. Excited about that. Maybe Djokovic will finally get that gold medal.
Hey, amen.
Yeah.
So yeah, what else is up, man? Do you know the Lex Friedman podcast?
I don't believe so. Lex Friedman?
Okay. Lex Friedman. Yeah, he's a podcaster, on YouTube, big name. Hosts all types of people with controversial topics or just people that are professional. Like Mark Zuckerberg's probably been on his show or,
a lot of billionaires.
Anyone you can think of. Yeah, Mark, Elon Musk, whatever. So he had Kevin Spacey on.
Okay.
And I was listening to that. Thought it was interesting. Kevin Spacey? I mean, I actually like him as an actor. You ever watch his movies or think he's a good actor?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I saw the movie that we talked about a couple episodes ago when we were talking about gambling. It was that movie 21, where him and that group from MIT go to Las Vegas, which was based on a true story, and they have this plan to count cards and just break the bank. But yeah, Kevin Spacey played the MIT professor. I thought he did a pretty good job. I mean, I thought it was pretty good in that TV show House of Cards.
I forgot about that movie. You're right. That's a good role.
Yeah.
He didn't talk about that role in his podcast, but he mostly talked about acting, his career as an actor, and a lot of into detail of acting and what it takes to make a good movie or put on a good performance. But the controversy was that, of course, is now he was canceled.
Right.
And now he's been acquitted. He's been acquitted of all his, accusations. He's been acquitted. So no charges on him, no convictions. But still people are, he's a monster or whatever. But, what I was thinking about that is he's been playing these roles that are super villain, super evil, sometimes very crude. Even Horrible Bosses. I don't know if you watched the movie.
I'm familiar with them. I think they made a second one too.
In his role in that movie, I found him very despicable, very distasteful kind of person in that role, which is not supposed to be one of his main roles because this is just a funny movie.
Right.
But I think there's something to say to that. maybe people have a perception of him because of the roles, and they attribute those things to his persona. And I was just wondering, like, how much of a character is true in yourself when you play a character, right? Like especially if you play a character really well, how much are you really like that person? You see what I'm saying?
I could understand, and they had a bunch of rumors going on about Kevin Spacey even before he got in trouble and kind of like left show business. I think Family Guy made jokes about him molesting like underage teenagers and stuff like that. And that was the weird thing, because like there's been things that come up on Family Guy that end up coming true or end up making headlines. So
okay, so it was just a show, and they kind of depicted him as a
it's possible that I don't know if they knew beforehand, but it's possible that some people like Seth MacFarlane, who makes Family Guy, already kind of had it came off to him like, all right, yeah, Kevin Spacey is like that. That's why we're going to make fun of him in this show. And then it actually, came out in the headlines. But I know you were saying like he was acquitted and stuff, but it's same thing with Harvey Weinstein. People at least had ideas about him, harassing people or actors and stuff who worked with him. And even before he got in trouble and, got all those accusations, went to prison and stuff, there were people even making jokes. Even, who was it? Seth MacFarlane, right there. Like, he was making jokes about, like, oh, if you're doing this good with the Academy, you don't have to pretend to love Harvey Weinstein anymore. Or you don't have to sleep with Harvey Weinstein anymore now. Stuff like that. So I don't know if he just kind of had insider information, or if he was just, he kind of had ideas and was just
probably
making
everybody
jokes.
kind of knew. In that circle, maybe.
That was kind of the thing, but I don't know how the grand scheme of things work in Hollywood, because obviously it would not surprise me if a lot of people in these circles know about like what other people are up to, and there's probably so much that goes on behind the curtain that we don't hear about, that we don't know about, and they probably don't want it getting out. But I don't know, it's possible it could just get to where it gets so bad that they just can't hide it anymore, and they're like, okay, you're on your own, pal.
But the difference between like Harvey Weinstein, right, and Kevin Spacey, let's say, it's a different situation.
You're right.
In a way, because one of them, well, you could say that they're both using their power to get favors. Let's just say that.
Of course, yeah.
Right? They're both doing that. But the thing is, my kind of point with Kevin Spacey is that because he portrayed these characters in shows or movies that are very, mainstream, popular, depicting a very evil person, that had a lot to do with the perception of him. Because with Harvey Weinstein, I don't know the exact case and everything, but from what I know is that he was convicted. That's the difference. See,
exactly. No, he was guilty.
He broke the law.
He did.
Whereas Kevin Spacey didn't.
Right.
And like if I go and act and I portray all these evil people, and then people judge me for that, but then maybe they do have a right to judge me, because maybe there is that person inside of me. That's what I'm trying to get to. But it's a complicated topic. I'm not saying I have any answers, but I just wanted to explore that topic. Like, us right here, we're putting on a bit of a character, right? So if I say certain things because I'm on YouTube or whatever, just like say something outrageous, people are going to say, okay, that's him, because I'm not popular for anything else besides saying that stupid stuff. But if I'm popular for, depicting a certain character, then it adds up, and then maybe I'm judged by it. You see what I'm saying? Like
I can understand that. It's kind of like back in the day, I've seen some of those old sci-fi movies with like Boris Karloff, Vincent Price. These were like horror sci-fi movies. Vincent Price would play like these, really, crazy people, or just someone who is just like, really mean or would cause trouble. And, or kind of like Boris Karloff, he kind of had the face to like, kind of play those scary characters. And it's not necessarily where they like that in real life, but I could kind of see why people would get that idea of them being like that. And with Kevin Spacey, it's really hard for me to tell. I don't know him real well. I mean, I've seen a few of his movies, which, you know, he did a good job playing the parts. But I can't really tell if he was just like that and it made it easier for him to play those parts, or maybe he just started doing so many of those roles, he just started to become that type of person. Because
that's another one. That's another aspect to it. Yeah, exactly.
There was, who was it? Someone named Natalie Portman, who won an Academy Award for this movie called The Black Swan. She was trying to be some dancer or something like that. I did not see the movie. All I know is that it was a very dark movie. And
you know, I saw the movie. I remember it being a good movie. I enjoyed it. But I didn't even remember. Kevin Spacey was on that movie?
No. I'm just kind of saying, like, it was Natalie Portman was the main star.
Right.
But just the certain things that she had to
but
do
women get a pass.
Part.
Women get a pass.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
So,
but
it's not a good example.
Wasn't the same thing as Kevin Spacey. It's just saying, you know, the role did kind of mess with her a little bit. I don't know. She kind of, you know, started experiencing some weird stuff after doing the role. So I'm saying,
certain
roles, certain roles
because,
in a way.
I was thinking more of the allegations and criminal kind of charge and that kind of stuff. But yeah, of course, every actor can go through that kind of thing. Like if there's an actress that portrays, you know, some kind of, like, let's say a prostitute or something for a lot of roles, next time you see her, how are you going to talk to her like a lady? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to...
Are you talking about Pretty Woman?
Right. But see, I don't think it affected her in that sense, because she had so many other roles that were not like that.
Julia Roberts? Yeah. Right. I mean, that's not her most famous role, but...
And even if it was, like, even because everybody knows that, you know, the quotes of that scene or that movie, whatever. And even if it was her best movie, still, she kind of pulled it off to where it didn't really mess with her, you know?
Exactly. I mean, it does also vary by actor, I think. There can be some people who will just go up, they play parts, and then at the end of the day, it's game over. But sometimes with movie stars there will be, I don't know, it won't necessarily be a rom-com, but there will be these two characters who kind of have to, like, be romantically involved with each other. They end up having to try to develop good chemistry together. And of course, they're acting in the movie, but, you know, they maybe have them do a couple of love scenes, and then what ends up happening is that, oh, look, they're now dating. So it's kind of like a good example. The movie Green Lantern that Ryan Reynolds did, I think it was back in 2011.
Oh, yeah.
The one who played his girlfriend, Blake Lively, after, like, they did that movie together, shortly after they started dating, now they're married. So
she sounds hot.
It's very possible that it's just when they were doing those scenes together, when they worked together, they kind of started developing feelings for each other. Yeah. And so I don't know, like, you know, celebrity marriages, a lot of them end in divorce, as we know, but hey, 50% of marriages in the country end in divorce, so you can't just rip off on celebrities, but they're just famous for getting divorced a lot of the time.
Hey, you know what I was thinking, or like I heard of this, you know, that divorce rate percentage, 50%, right? Somebody made a good point. They're like, see, what happens, it's not that people get married and there's a 50% chance of getting divorced. It's like there's some serial divorcees out there. That's what's going on. So the same person gets married 3 times and they divorce. But that's one person divorcing 3 times, so that's 3 marriages. So it like messes the statistics. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying is that it's kind of like, let's say that you have person A who will maybe, you know, marry 5 different people.
3 or 4 times, yeah.
And then you have like person B who was just one of the victims of one of the divorce. He didn't know what he was getting into. And just like ended up, maybe he got divorced once, but maybe he got remarried. And then person B ended up like staying married or just staying single. I don't know. But then person A just...
Because think about it, right? Like
from person to person. So just that 50% divorce rate doesn't necessarily mean it's just half of couples are getting a divorce. A lot of times, a lot of that percent could apply just to one person.
Because I've always thought of the every time I heard that stat, I didn't think about what I just said. I would just take it as it came, right? Like, oh shit. But I always thought it was like a little bit off. Like I was like 50 is too much. It's like just a little too much where it's like we're not gonna do something if it's 50% chance of it for people just wouldn't do it. And
Oh, yeah.
and I
I
always
mean,
thought maybe 70, maybe 60 or something, like 70% staying together, of course, like 30% divorce rate or whatever.
I mean,
But
I can't really tell from experience because I really haven't been in a serious relationship before. I really don't date. So, and honestly, I don't really have any reason to be married. I just feel like it's more trouble than it's worth. But that's the thing is a lot of people get married and I can't say from experience because I haven't been married, but it just comes off to me like some couples don't know what they were getting into. Because it's kind of like, I've heard friends of mine and they're like, maybe not getting married, but they just get in a relationship and they're like, oh, I haven't felt better in my lifetime. I haven't felt so alive before. And then it comes like maybe 6 months, a year later, they're not getting along well, they break up, and it's just, the way I kind of feel it is like, you weren't in love, you were just in a trance, and
yeah,
the trance got broken,
the
and
honeymoon is
life
over,
goes
lady
on. That's
or guy.
exactly. That's just the way I feel about relationships. Is like, look, I'll run into people at bars and stuff, and I'll be like, hey, that person is like, really good looking or whatever. I'll think, oh, they're awesome, but it's not like, you know, even if we find stuff in common, or it's like, hey, I'm not against maybe going out on a date with someone, but at the same time, even if they make me feel really good at one point, I know that's not gonna last forever.
Yeah.
And I'm
Well,
not saying
you're like realistic about the whole thing.
exactly. And plus, that's the whole thing is that, like in my last job, there were a lot of people that, like, they had us traveling a lot. And that's part of the reason they hired me because I was single, I didn't have a family or
Right.
anything. It was easy for me to go on
On
the
the
road. But
road.
then there
Yeah.
were other people who it's like, mostly it'd be the guys, because we were on construction sites. But they'd be traveling a lot, and then their wives would be like, you're not spending enough time with me. Then they would end up getting a divorce, and that's kind of why it's like, okay, you should have known what you were getting into when you got married, like what effect it would have on your job. But that's kind of the thing, is that, you really have to think long term on certain decisions like that. But
Yeah. Well,
that's just my 2 cents for today. Take everything I say with a grain of salt.
oh, I
But
always do.
that's from someone who's single. It was great getting together. Hopefully, we can do an episode in the future, or a lot more episodes, and have fun in Maine.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it was great talking to you, and we'll be doing more of these. Stay tuned. It was a great talk today. Some good ideas.
All
Stay
right.
tuned, guys.
Absolutely. See you next time on the Napoleon and Gueco podcast. Peace.
Peace.